Okay. This is Nancy Caruso. I'm sitting here with Margaret Usher. She is 75 years old. She was born in 1913 and here in Hastings and has lived here all of her life. Okay, Margaret, did you work on the Hastings waterfront?
No.
Did your father or mother work on the Hastings?
My father did.
Where did he work?
Which we called the block factory, but it actually was the pavement company.
The pavement company. Do you remember anything about the pavement company and how they treated your father?
Well, of course the pay was very little at that time, but I would go down and bring my father's supper down, and we'd go and sit at the pier while he ate it. We ran around there as kids, played around while he ate. And then we'd go back to where he had to work. And he shoveled coal into a wheelbarrow and then wheeled it into this very big furnace. Big fire that would be sky high, it seemed.
Wow, the smoke went right up into the air.
Because of, there was nothing there, with machinery. It had to be done by hand, filling up the furnace with it. And this is what he did nights on nights.
And then they made, what, tar? Or,
I know,
don't
they
know.
made the blocks.
Oh, they made big pavement blocks.
Yeah.
I see. Were they taken out by train, or how were these blocks moved?
Well,
do you remember?
I don't remember that, but at that time there was an awful lot of the, what would we call them, the trains that carry things.
Freight trains. Yeah. I see, they went back and forth there, and you can remember them going back and forth and in and out and moving and shifting and all that. Yeah. Okay. Now let's see. Margaret, I didn't get your father's name. What was his name?
George Ritz.
Ritz, that's H-R-I-T-Z, right. And your mother's name was?
Annie. A-N-N-I-E.
Yeah, and her last name before she was married?
Was Chuhran. C-U-H-R-A-N.
Okay. Did she never worked?
Oh, she did housework.
She did housework while you kids were
growing. For 50 cents a day, and then it went up to $2 in, we'll say 20 years later.
Did she work up at the manor, as they say?
Yeah. And no matter where she worked, you had to walk back and forth. There was no such thing as them paying for a cab, if there was a cab, or they're coming down for you. You walked.
Okay. Now, how many children were there?
In my family?
Yeah.
There were just 3 girls.
Okay. You and Mary and
Julia.
And Julia, right. Okay. Did you remember, was your father ever hurt on the job? Was his job dangerous? Was he burned?
Well, no. My father wasn't hurt at the job, but my father spent a lot of time in hospitals. He had bad legs.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And when he could, he worked. And I remember later on in years, well, we still lived under the bridge at the time there. He worked for Lord and Burnham's, and he used to walk there to save the 10 cents to buy us kids fruit. My mother often talked about that, how he would walk all the way from Irvington just to save that to buy us kids fruit.
Lord and Burnham's, what is that?
That's in Irvington.
That's in Irvington, and what did they do there?
I think they're still there or just got out of there. They were, I think, the greenhouses.
Oh, I see. That was nice. That's kind of a fun kind of a job. Okay, well, would you say that, did you ever remember that your father complained about conditions down at the waterfront or at the pavement company?
No.
Or he hated his boss, or he thought they were money grabbers, or...
No, they were thankful to get the job.
Yeah.
They were thankful, and if they could get overtime, they put in all the overtime they could just to get that little bit of money,
Do you remember the Depression, and was your father laid off, or, in connection with his job, the Depression, did that affect him in any way?
No, because...
they kept everybody on?
By that time, it was, Depression time. I was married at that time. That was in, 32?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was married at that time, and by that time, my father wasn't able to work.
I see. Okay, how old was your father when you were born, let's say, roughly?
You know, I really wouldn't know.
40, 50?
I don't think he was that old.
Yeah.
No. Because my mother came over. My father was here first, and my mother came over, and she got married young, too.
Do you remember why he came over? Did he hear there was work in America?
They all came over for that purpose.
Yeah, they heard over there that they're both Polish.
You know, we're Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
Okay. And both your mother and father were Czechoslovakian.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that, yeah, that's great. Okay. Was that when he got paid overtime, was that double time or time and a half, or was it just more pay?
Just straight pay, but
did he ever belong to a union, do you know?
No.
No, there was no
such thing as a union.
Right. But he got along well with his supervisors and with the big mucky mucks and so on. Were there a lot of fancy houses on Riverview Manor at that time, or just a few?
Well, to be honest with you, there were a few that we knew of. We, as children, could not roam around the village. We lived under the bridge, and we stayed there pretty well unless we went with our parents. And when we went with our parents, it was mostly to the ball field. That was on a Sunday, which was a day of rest, and everybody this was our recreation, watching the boys play baseball.
Now, was this ball field where the ball field is now at Reynolds Field?
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah.
Do you remember the place up on the aqueduct where they had picnics? I've heard of that. I don't remember it.
No, actually, I don't remember because we were never, my mother and father weren't that active in they always sort of had enough to do at home.
Oh, I should think so.
You know?
Yeah.
And my mother used to help my aunt out, who was a midwife, and she was out all the time, and my mother used to help her by taking care of the washing and the ironing for them. So it kept her pretty busy. But when Sunday came, that was it.
That was it. That was your fun day.
That was
good. Mm-hmm. Did you take a picnic lunch up to the ball field?
No, because we always went up after dinner.
After dinner,
lunch.
I see.
And you sat there, and they come around with their hats, and you drop the nickel in or whatever you could give. You know, this was what, for the boys that played. They had the Lyceum boys. And up around there was a lot of woods there. Of course, now there's houses there. We used to pick mushrooms. And then up where they talk about the sugar pond. Yeah. And above that's what we used to call the crazy house was up there.
Oh, I remember the crazy house. That was
that pond belonged to the crazy house, which wasn't the sugar pond at that time. Now they call it the sugar pond.
Yeah, but really the sugar pond is under the bridge. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, the crazy house, was there anybody in the crazy house?
Oh, yeah.
Because when I remember it was vacant, it was empty.
When I was, what would I, 13 or 14, I used to work up on Circle Drive after school as a mother's helper. And there were very few houses on Circle Drive at that time. The Reynolds house was next door to the Whalen's house that the people I worked for. And we could look out at the kitchen window, and there's a path, and you'd see the nurses walking the patients in the path, and the path would lead to Children's Village.
Yes. Sure, because that's the path I used to come down to school.
Yeah.
But the path was all gone. There was nobody in the crazy house there, but that's the same path.
But see, that probably was, you're younger than I am.
Sure.
Well, at that time they were gone, but when I was up there, they would walk the patients there.
And were those people really crazy, do you think, or was it a nursing home? You don't know.
But I know they were never alone.
Yeah.
They probably just mentally imbalanced, but still they were never alone. There was always nurses, with them.
Yeah. You don't know what the real name of that place was. I don't know either.
No.
Maybe the Historical Society does. I don't know. I bet they do. They probably do.
I don't know. I think it was the Jewish, though. It was a Jewish mental.
And it was it very well kept up, and was the pool, the pond, or whatever it was all part of it, and had nice grounds.
You didn't get near the,
But it had nice grounds, and so of course when I remember it was all grown up to weeds. you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But like everything else, it all went downhill.
Yeah. Yeah.
I often think of where, under the bridge, how beautiful it was when I lived there. And look at it now.
Yeah. They got some kind of oil slick in there now in that duck pond, and it's just a mess.
And that water that used to come down through there was as clear and ice cold, you know.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when they used to dump the coal from the factory, they used to dump it under the bridge. And we would have to pick coal for our...
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Then you get some real nice big chunks.
Now, did the water come down there where the parking lot is, too? I mean, was that pond bigger than it is now?
The pond, but of course, now it's sort of grown in.
Yeah.
The pond it wasn't that much bigger, but it was, you know, the circular ground, it was about the same. But it was cleared. Now it seems to be growing mud and all that around it. But alongside the pond, there was like a box. It was, say this here, like this, and just wood coming across it, and wood down here, and the water would come through here, all the way down.
Oh, I see, sort of like a filter system or something.
Or I don't know what, but we used to go in there in the summertime to get cool off.
Oh, you'd go right in the box, and the water was coming down, and
right. The box had sides on it.
And you stick your feet in there.
And because we'd walk in it and sit in it and all that.
Yeah.
But that started, say, like from the pond all the way down to under the street there to go under the tracks.
So it went right down from where the pond is now, straight down under the tracks, and out into the river, probably.
Well, to the factory,
it went,
or whatever it is, to the factory, because they used to get the water there.
Oh, they needed the water in the factory. Oh, so it fed it right into the factory. Oh, I see. And there you sat in there, paddling your little tootsies. Okay, well now, there was no bridge at that time? Oh, yes, there was a bridge. Oh, sure, there was a bridge at that time. Oh, yeah. What was your address? What would you say your address was?
Factory Lane.
Factory Lane. Now, you weren't along the side there of the gorge. You were on... Where's your house now? What's there now?
It's torn down.
And what is in its place?
Sand from the village.
Oh, I see.
It was.
So it's where the parking lot was?
No.
Where the parking lot is?
The parking lot is down further. The house that I'm talking about was directly below, say, 2224 Main Street. You know where the doll house used to be?
Oh, down in behind there.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. And that was Factory Lane that ran up that way?
Well, Factory Lane came from where the station is.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you could go all the way up to Main Street by the youth center and
up the hill there.
Yeah.
Up where the Fraser Free School was. That was the school, wasn't it? Yeah. And you went in on the other side of that. I see. Mm. Oh, I see. Jack D'Souza lives down there. Did you know Mrs. D'Souza died the other day?
Yeah. But Jack lived in the house, the first house. Then there was another house which we had lived in, which was a one family, which also belonged to the Caras, which was a one family house. My kid sister was born there. That house, I think, is still there. Then came the house that we lived for so many years again, which was a three-story house, which belonged to Riola. See, Riolas and his Caras were related.
Yeah, I know that, yeah.
And we lived in a three-story, which we didn't have any bathroom or toilet in our place. We had an outhouse.
Did you?
We had an outhouse. We didn't have any electricity or anything. We never had that until we moved on Warburton Avenue when I was 15 years old.
Okay. Yeah. All right, now when you were 15, by that time your father had stopped working or no?
Oh, no, my father...
He was still working?
No, he was...
He stopped?
Yeah. He used to go out and do like gardening work or something like that. Yeah. But...
and you moved up to Warburton Avenue, and where were you on Warburton Avenue?
At 443.
which is now
where the Downers live.
Downers. Wait a minute now. I'm not clear there. Where's the?
You know where the bicycle shop used to be?
Yes, yeah.
Well,
yeah,
two
yeah.
houses up.
Okay.
But I was born in the house, which was north of the sugar pond, which was torn down way before this other house was.
Yeah, I see.
Which belonged to the Cotlets, Mrs. Cotlet.
Cotlet.
Cotlet. C-O-T-L-E-T.
Mm-hmm.
She owned all of that property, and
well, did she own more than just your house?
that house. Well, that was more of a. There was more boarders in there at that time than families in there. In this house.
When my mother-in-law boarded men who worked down in Anaconda or wherever they worked down on the waterfront, they didn't rent a room. They rented space. They rented a bed. And she had them all working on shifts so that they shared the same bed. The day bed, it would be used in the daytime by one man, and the nighttime it would be used by another man.
You mean in private homes?
Well, this was when she was in the little house there on the corner of Aqueduct Lane. Is that the way it worked for you, or did they actually have a room that they could call their own?
No. They would have like two men in a room or whatever, because nobody could pay much.
Yeah.
At the time. But I remember even with us, when we lived in that family house, there was three girls, my father, my mother. And yet when my cousin got married, there was no room for them. They had a little baby, and my mother took them in. So, you did with little space for a lot of people.
Right. Mm-hmm. Shared your space and shared your... Yeah. Sammy never had not Sammy, but the boy, because Sammy was born in the big house, my husband.
Mm-hmm.
But the other boys say that they never had a closet. They lived out of a box. They had a box where their shirts were, and they never had a dresser.
No, they didn't. No. And our living room, we had there was a sewing machine, a dresser, a chair. It was no, a living room set or anything like they, have nowadays.
But it would still seem to be a happy time. You never realized how poor you were.
No, we never looked at it.
Had a good time.
I think because we never had it, we never looked for it,
Yeah.
And we never wandered. We weren't supposed to go. We did go down, which I was a tomboy, and my mother couldn't control me as far as sneaking away with the girls going down to the river. And we used to go down to the point because they were allowed to go swimming there, see, and we weren't allowed. While my mother was working.
They who were allowed?
My friends.
Your friends, but you and your family weren't allowed to go swimming there.
No.
I see. But you would go anyway.
I would go. My mother would be working, and I would go.
Uh-huh.
And my sister, she was the good girl. She was the one that was always picking coke when I would go with them. And because my mother didn't like us going down because we had to cross the tracks.
Yeah.
And we went down. You don't hear anybody talking about the point. This is where the people all went with it. Okay.
Point. Now, where would the point be today?
The point is just, what would you call it, south of Robeson's.
Okay.
It comes out.
Does it still do that?
It's still there.
Yeah.
Sure, the trees are there, the bushes are there, and nobody seems to, talk about that. And
it was
it's
just,
almost like Duck's Ferry, where you could...
You just called it the point. That was
point.
You went to the point.
And they'd go down, because a lot of them, we didn't have bathing suits or anything. You'd go sleep in the water with your dress or your underpants or something.
Sure.
But the parents of the kids would, bring sandwiches or something and sit because there were trees there. They still are. And of course, it's all rocks there. But it's just like Dobbs Ferry now, where the rocks are all there, and then you have your trees and your little...
Yeah.
We had that. It's not as big.
With some help, it could be really very attractive.
And more so than up where the shops are, I think.
Yeah. Huh.
Because that would be where the Tower Ridge used to have a bridge, coming down. And it would be closer to that Tower Ridge Club, which is gone. And the Pioneer is there now. And then came the Point, and of course Robeson's now are in between.
Okay, but the Point still belongs to Hastings. It isn't into Yonkers.
Oh, no, it's south.
It's just...
George Dobbs Ferry.
Oh, it's up the other way. Oh, I'm confused. Oh, it's up the other way, of course.
You're talking about the home, which the kids used to go swimming down at the home.
The home? What was the home?
That Graham School was up there, and there was a bridge there, footbridge there, too.
Oh, yeah?
And, but, of course, the kids in the village used to go over the tracks. They wouldn't, go all the way down this way and go over the bridges and then.
Well, now, Sandrock, was that there? It wasn't called Sandrock. Not Sandrock. No, I'm talking about, what was that place called? Before it burned down.
Yeah, I can't think of
But was that always there? I mean, that sort of marked the line between Hastings. That was where the trolley stopped, I know.
Yeah. McCassin Inn.
McCassin Inn?
Amacassin. A-M-A-C-K.
Amacassin Inn. The Rock House. That was what it was called. It was called the Rock House. It was the Amacassin Inn, and the trolley stopped there because I remember my mother-in-law took my kids on the last trolley ride, Jeff and Chuck.
Amacassin Inn, and
they were
the Rock House.
Yeah. Now that was still there when you were kids, as far as you can, as far as you know.
The
Amacassin Inn, yeah.
But that's what we used to go by.
But you didn't go down there to swim.
Not me. My kids did.
I see, yeah.
They used to go down with the kids. Of course, I used to forbid it too, worrying about them in the river, down the river. But, they went anyway.
Yeah.
And they used to laugh, though, the kids that went down there, they didn't have bathing suits, so they used to all say they couldn't behave.
Yeah, I know. Well, I did a little of that in my time, too. Not here, but up in Connecticut. All right, now, how about the only other thing that I know about, I'm not very well versed in this, is the Buccaneer. Now, the Buccaneer, was that out there then, that ship that was sunk?
The Buccaneer was down near where the Tower Ridge.
Yeah. And did you go out and play on that, too?
Yeah.
You did.
But not too much.
You don't want to admit that.
You were chased. If anybody did down there, you were chased.
Yeah, I used to hear about kids who went out there. I'd never been out there, but, Okay, well now, somebody mentioned to me that the immigrants, the people who worked in the factories and so forth, were not even allowed up, that the police would stop them and say, you go home, you're not to come up here when you started to approach Villard. Did you feel any of that discrimination?
No, because I never wanted to go up there.
But I mean, when you went up to Reynolds Field, for instance,
no.
I mean, they didn't say anything about that.
No, because this was the village. This is where all of us went.
I see.
But what we did feel was we weren't equal in school. Absolutely not. I mean,
you had your classes, and they had their classes.
Well, I mean, we were together, but they didn't mix with us. Like now, you find that most of them from the hill are in the village.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, it wasn't so.
Yeah.
Of course.
You would never have a boyfriend who lived on Circle Drive.
Oh, God, no.
No.
Most of the teachers at that time were boarding here. And, of course, they were invited to
board up at River.
They were invited to dinner and things like that, which we couldn't do that to the teachers.
Yeah.
There was a little bit of, what would I call it? Like
snobbery, I guess. I mean, it was certainly a discrimination about. Yeah. Which is why, we have that same thing remaining. I mean, it's gradually dying, but it takes a couple of generations. It takes a couple of generations before that kind of thing can be erased. Because if you feel as though somebody thinks you're better than you are, boy, you harbor a tremendous grudge against them. Yeah.
Oh, it's still going on. You
think so?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think as much as you.
Oh, no, and not as harsh as it was, if you know what I mean. But it's still there.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Listen, okay, now let's see. Let's get back to a few of our questions here. Do you have any idea what your father made as a salary at the Hastings Pavement Company? Just
$8.
$8 a week.
And if he made 12, that was big money.
Uh-huh. Okay, do you remember, for instance, what you paid for rent? Or do you have any idea how much of that $8 went for rent?
No.
Or how much a quart of milk cost, or a loaf of bread if your mom gave you a nickel?
As I got older, I know darn well I used to go up to, to get up on Main Street to go to the store, we had to go through those apartments up the stairs to get out the street.
Yeah, right.
And because the store was right there, and you can get coffee, milk, butter, and that all for $1. $1 went a long ways.
Yeah, now how old would you have been then?
Well, I must have been about 12, 13.
When your mom would give you $1 and say, go up and get it, and she'd give you a list. She'd give you a little list, and you'd have to go.
But we didn't do too much that way. It was only if you ran short, because we had a butcher boat down to Soma's near the railroad station.
Soma's?
Soma, S-O-M-A-L, Soma's. There was a little butcher shop. And this is where you traded. And you had a book, and when you went in and bought anything, he would mark it in your book. And at the end of the week, you would pay him.
Was it taken out of your pay, or did you go on the honor system? You had to go in and pay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at this Somo's, you could buy what besides meat? I mean, you could butcher
whatever.
everything. You could buy a loaf of bread. You could buy butter and milk and
if we were
cheese.
good in the summertime, my mother would buy us a 3-cent ice cream cone.
Oh, all right. Okay, now was that was where the South Side Club is now?
No, more there to the station.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it was right there, right at the end of Factory Lane then.
Yeah.
Right. I see.
Because at the beginning of Factory Lane, coming this way, right, was Marston's Saloon.
Marston.
Yeah.
M-A-R.
Mary Siratek's father.
Mary Siratek's father. All right, now you spell Marston's, M-A-R-S...
M-A-R-C-I-N.
Marston's Saloon. Oh, and so the men, they tried not to stop there on their way home. I see. Okay, they got their paycheck and tried to get by Marston's before they're...
But they were good. You never, you didn't have to worry about them because at that time most of the people made their own.
Yeah.
You know?
They made their own liquor.
Oh, yeah.
Their own beer and stuff.
And at that time...
Yeah, I know Grandma did. Yeah.
And at that time, it wasn't a drunken thing there. It was mostly for medicinal purposes, you might say.
Oh, come on. Yeah, that's what your mother told you.
No. I'll be honest with you. I've seen my mother and my father take a shot of whiskey over the sink with water chaser, and this is it.
Oh, yes. Oh, sure.
In the morning and at night.
Yeah.
And that was it. You never caught them drinking before or in between or taking a bottle and making highballs. Never. Never.
Yeah.
I can honestly say that, yeah.
But I'm sure that there were some young men who were not married who spent quite a lot of time in the saloon.
Probably.
You know.
But it wasn't like it is nowadays
Yeah.
or anything like that, you know. Yeah. But at that time, it's well, I remember when we had well, at that time, everybody, there was flu hit Hastings and that. And
how old were you then?
I don't remember that. I remember my father saying we had Dr. Jenks, yeah, from Olinda.
Uh-huh.
He lived in Olinda, and he came down and he said to my father, he said, go to Kaufman's and get a pint of whiskey. Because we didn't have any at that time in the house there. And this is what they gave for, you know, with the flu there.
Yeah.
At one time there...
And how old were you? You kids didn't have the flu. The adults had the flu.
No, we didn't.
The adults had the flu. And were dying of influenza.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, well now you can't remember how old you were?
No.
Well, were you 10?
Let me see, what year was it the flu hit?
Well, they probably know. Well, now you said you went to Kaufman's to get your whiskey. Now that's not the saloon at the corner.
That was Hastings. At that time, it was where the Hastings house is. Kaufman's had that.
Kaufman's, and that was a tavern too. Mm-hmm. I see.
And it was a swankier place.
Oh, a
And
restaurant
and they had rooms upstairs.
Yes.
You know.
That you like a hotel.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. And he had to come up there and get his whiskey when it was.
At that time, it was during Prohibition.
I see. I see. So the influenza hit during Prohibition then.
It must have.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he got it. He gave him a prescription for whiskey because you didn't have any whiskey. Oh, I see how that works. Yeah. That's good. Oh, that's good. Okay. Now let's see. Do you remember your mom and dad ever talking about wishing that they had their own home or wishing they had their own place, or was that just pie in the sky? They just never thought that would ever happen.
They didn't talk much. They never bothered us children with all their troubles or worries.
Well, they were working all the time.
They were working, and then we had our work plan too for us to do. But when we moved to Warburton Avenue, they bought their house cash.
Oh, all right.
I don't know whether it was $3,000 or $4,000, but they saved that by dollar.
Dollar by dollar, right? Yeah. And bought, so they did hope. I mean, they were working toward that.
Up from under the bridge.
To get out from under the bridge and to go up under. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So they had some dreams and some hopes and so on. Oh, that's good. I love it. Okay, now let's see.
We had gone to Connecticut. We weren't there long. And
to visit?
No, I think we lived there for a few months, maybe a year. But I remember they went because of the Bridgeport factories there at that time. They were making the things there.
Making things.
I imagine it was bullets or
ammunition or something.
But I remember I was only a little one, and when the soldiers came to the door, I ran under the bed. And I'm under the bed, and they lifted up the coverlet and looked under the bed. I imagine they must have been looking for guns or something or other there.
Yeah.
But that stays in my mind
so clearly. You were so frightened.
And then to see them picking up that thing and looking at it.
So your family now, you were still on Factory Lane, and you picked up stakes and moved to Bridgeport for a little while, and then came back again.
Right to Factory Lane again.
Isn't that something? And that was during the war, when he probably thought he could get a better job or earn more money.
To get money, yeah.
Yeah. But it didn't work out. You don't know why it didn't work out. No. Or the war was over or something. Okay, let's see. Now we've got down about your ownership and homes and everything. All right. Now it says, describe in detail the living arrangements and physical amenities in your house or apartment. Well, now that means, that you didn't have a sofa set. You didn't, in your living room you had just exactly what you were telling me, so forth. And you didn't have, did you have a radio?
No, we didn't have it until years later. I would say I must have been about 13 or 14 when they got
a radio.
No, not a radio. A Victrola.
Oh, a Victrola.
Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Oh, that was something. And do you remember your mother dancing to the music and with a record on and kind of fooling around a little bit?
My mother did get some of foreign songs that they had over in Europe.
Oh, yes.
And that that was great for them because it brought back memories for her.
Oh, yes. This is a wind-up thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
We didn't have any electric down there.
Yeah.
I didn't have electricity until I got on Warburton Avenue.
Oh, that's right. Of course. Yeah.
I think that neighborhood probably was the last one to really start going, modern, because, as I said, we had an outhouse, and I think even the other houses they all had toilets in the hallway which people shared.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
where we lived, it was an
Didn't even have
outhouse.
that. But when you got up to Warburton Avenue, then you had a bathroom.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
really living then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Wow, it was great. And when you were on Warburton Avenue, did you have a living room that you could actually come and sit down in and?
Yeah, we
And
did. Well, we didn't get it right
checkers,
away, but we did gradually. My mother got a couch and a chair, and of course our Victrola came up.
Yes. And you'd sit there and maybe play checkers or solitaire or cards or something.
Well, during the summer we could use it because there was no heat there. We used to mostly stay in the kitchen.
Oh, in the wintertime because of the heat.
Because
I see.
of the stove at that time.
Yeah.
But as years went on, my mother and father put in an oil burner that we can have heat upstairs. But we used to sit after supper. We'd sit downstairs after the kitchen floor was swept up. Oh, it had to be done every time, after supper.
Uh-huh.
And then we'd sit down and play pinochle.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's all right. Now you say downstairs. The kitchen was below the living room?
Yeah. In fact, it still is down the same way. The kitchen and...
That house that you lived in is still that way. The kitchen is downstairs.
Yeah.
Of course, but my little house is that way. The kitchen is... Kitchen and bathroom are in the bottom floor.
Yeah. Well,
then you got the living room down here, and then you got the bedroom.
And they have we had the dining room.
With the kitchen?
Downstairs, yeah.
And did you have a dining room table and a
As
chair?
years went on, we did.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
When you first moved in there, that room was empty, I'll bet.
Oh, sure.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
And little by little, of course, money was getting better.
Yeah. Yeah, but money was getting better, but still, your dad wasn't working very much.
No, but my mother worked hard.
Yeah. What were the names of some of the families that she worked for? Do you remember? I mean,
Davis, up on Edgar's Lane, Hines, Louis Hines.
Yeah.
And she worked for the Bouchers and the Boucher's sister or somebody.
The Bouchers on Southgate?
Yeah. Mary worked for them for years afterwards, but my mother years ago, yeah. And the Wadleys.
Watley or Wadley?
Wadley.
Where did they live?
They lived on Flower Avenue. I think it would be Flower Avenue and Hastings.
Yeah.
I don't know where. Flower, it would be in Hastings because Wadleys were here, the road is here, Davis is on this corner, Hines is on this corner, and Flower Avenue were in this.
And she would go up there and she would do everything. I mean, there was no vacuum cleaner then. She'd sweep the rugs and beat them and wash the windows and the curtains and the...
It used to be hard work because, they used to, you'd polish everything, you'd get down on your hands and knees and polish floors and everything, and wax and all.
Yeah, paste wax on the floors.
Yeah.
And yet she still lived to be what?
97.
97, bless her heart. Yeah, that's great. Okay, now let's see. How would you describe your local neighborhood, the boundaries, the streets, the sections of the village? I guess you did that pretty well. Now, who lived on your block? Were there a Czechoslovakian group? Or were you next to Polish?
There was Russian
and they were all mixed. I mean, you didn't have any discrimination among yourselves or anything.
No.
I mean, I think of Doug's Ferry as being Italian. I mean, there were Italians here, too, weren't there? I mean, certainly my mother-in-law was one.
And the houses there were owned by DeCara and
yeah, that's right.
That's on Main Street.
Right.
We were down below, so it's
they were all mixed. There was no ethnic discrimination between Polish and Czechoslovakian and Russian and Ukrainian and so forth. No, you all workers and you all. Okay, that's great. Okay. All right. And was there a meeting place for people in the neighborhood? Well, McKim's. What did you say the name of the tavern was?
Marson?
Marson was in the baseball field.
Yeah.
I mean, where would you go? I mean, if your mother or your father, I mean, did your mother belong to any sewing circle or? No, she didn't have any time for any of that. No. Work and make supper and go to bed. Yeah.
Because of course I started to do that too when I was married. I'd get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to do the washing because you soaked it the night before. Then you get up and you, after you soaked it, you put it into this copper boiler on the stove and boiled it. Then from there you put it into a water and you rubbed it on the board. Then you put it in that water and then you put it in your gluing water. And all this, it took a lot of time to get all that done by hand.
And you did all that from 2 o'clock?
I did it too because I didn't have a washing machine or anything. And of course I did it the way my parents did it,
Yeah. But when were you married? What year?
31.
31.
Because 31, 32.
Okay, and you lived now. All right. So Ed Usher comes into town. I mean, was he around all the time? Did he live here?
Oh yeah, he was born in well, you might say Hastings, but in the hospital, in Yonkers Hospital.
Oh yeah, but I mean, he was a Hastings resident. And so you knew him growing up.
His grandparents were the ones that raised him. His mother died when she was 21, and Ed was 2 years old. And at that time, they lived up on Washington Avenue. They didn't have a phone, and she said she always knew that Lottie had died because when they came up to tell her to come down to the hospital that she was very bad. So she said by the time she got Edward dressed, which was my husband, the man was back up the street again telling her that she passed away. But she said she always felt that she was gone when he first came up, but he felt bad in telling her. He sort of wanted to prepare it, Yeah. But she said she always felt that,
And what did she die of? Appendicitis.
At the age of 21.
And she was in the hospital, but they didn't know what to do. So Ed grew up. All right. So Ed grew up on Washington Avenue. And did you two know?
Not all. No, he was there for I don't know how long, and then they lived down on Warburton, and where Nodine Street is, right on the corner.
Oh yeah.
Right next door to where Mary Lavicelli lives now. With his Grandma Pierce on this corner, and Lavicelli's on the other corner. And that's.
So you went. How did you get to meet Ed? I mean, did you know each other all through school?
No. Not until I was about 16, 17, when we were up at Warburton.
When you were up at Warburton, when you guys were up here, and then you, I see. Yeah, and so you decided to get married, and And you had how many children?
6.
And their names are?
George, Bobby, Eddie, Kenny, Lottie Ann, and David. Just a name.
I know that, but
I worked hard all my life too. I never had a bit of help or welfare or anything else the way they do nowadays. Run for it, right?
Listen, I can vouch for that. You're still working for me. You get down there at 5 o'clock in the morning, you crazy lady.
But I mean, it's so easy for them to get welfare now that they get lazy. They don't want to work.
I'm afraid so. I'm afraid there's a lot of that.
Yeah.
There's some that deserve it very nicely. I mean, who really, really need the help. But there's a lot who are.
Oh, I would rather give help to those that are working, but haven't got enough.
Yeah.
And
but
help them, then at least they're trying. But these others that sit back and,
Okay, well now you and Ed are married in 1931, and you're going to have your babies right away, and you're working very hard too, and so forth. But what did you do for fun, you and Ed, and your kids?
Well, we had an old car. Every night after supper.
Every night?
practically. We'd go down around Tarrytown or there, we'd circle around, and then we'd carry them in. They'd be asleep, we'd carry them in and put them to bed. In fact, even after the kids were all gone, even while we lived here, before he passed away, we'd be sitting here and all of a sudden he'd say, Ed was a man that didn't talk much.
Yeah.
He'd go, I said, where are we going? We used to say around the block. We'd go as far as the Tappan Zee Bridge and turn right and go all the way around, come home, and come home.
Yeah. Go for a ride.
Yeah.
That's it. Go for a ride.
And that was, we were happy about it.
Yeah. You didn't go to a movie.
Oh, yeah, we did. And my father used to come up and babysit. But when you went to the movies, you had to come right home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. That was enough of an outing, that's for sure.
We were lucky he came and sat while we went to the movies.
That's right. What do you remember seeing in the movies? Fred Astaire, Bing Crosby.
Ruth. All I remember, and I can't tell you what picture was Ruth Chatterton.
Ruth Chatterton. Yeah.
She's quite an actress.
I don't know that name at all.
No,
were they talkies? Yes, sure, they were talkies. They talked. They weren't silent movies that you watched. Were they?
No.
No, sure, they would be talkies when 1935. Yeah. Okay. And then when you took the kids, you would take them for a ride. Did you ever on a Sunday take them to a ball game or take them to a picnic or take
we when they were small, we took them to the game farm and to the zoo down in New York.
Bronx Zoo, sure, yeah.
And
all in this old car.
Gee, I remember one time we went up to Lake Carmel in Johnny Lockwood's car. There was Nellie and Johnny. They had 3 kids. My 6 and Ed and I, all in a convertible. When we got up there, people saw us coming out. They kept looking where all these kids, they were sitting on the floor and on the lots.
Oh, that's great. All right, now Ed, what did Ed do? What did he work? Where did he work?
He worked as first he worked as a pipe fitter with his uncles at the Anaconda.
Pipe fitter at Anaconda.
Then he went to a fisher body.
In
Tarrytown.
Right.
And he worked there. And of course, at that time when you were out of work, you were out of work 2 and 3 months. It isn't like turnovers now, a week or whatever.
Yeah.
It was quite a while.
Yeah.
So then he got, he said he could get into Zinzer's, and I said, well, whatever it is, yeah, at least it was steady there.
Yeah.
So then, this is where he worked until he...
Down at Zinzer Chemical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until he got
Until he retired. Yeah. Okay, now we're talking. Now, do you remember him being annoyed with the big mucky mucks, his supervisors and so forth?
Well,
was he a member of a union? Was he involved in a strike?
He was when he was up in General Motors, and he's not General, it's Fisher Brothers. See, the General Motors and Fisher Brothers.
Yeah.
He used to say one time, because he was foreman up there, and I shouldn't say this, but there was a black woman there, and there were women there, and she hit somebody over the head with the hammer or something. And of course he was called, when they...
Yeah, because it was her.
That, there was nothing
she was his responsibility, right, yeah.
But they had to be careful even then,
Yeah. But down here at either Zinzer or Anaconda, he was never a member of a union or never was involved with saying, well, we're going to strike for more wages or we're going to...
No, if he belonged, this was it. He never,
he was still felt lucky to have a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, sometimes we talk about it, when we when they would go on strike, I'd say, I never approved of the unions. I said, when he was up in Fisher Body, it was great because he gave him better working conditions.
Yeah.
But when they start striking all the time for, for more pay, and being out of work for so long, they didn't benefit anything because, you know, they never make up what they lost.
Now, the World War II. Now, what did he do? Was he at Zinsser Chemical by then? Were they making gases? Were they involved in the war effort?
He wasn't there then.
He wasn't there then. No. He was still at Fisher Bond.
He wanted to join, and he was, refused every place he went because of his height.
He was
now
too
they
short.
take anybody, yeah.
He was too short.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't very tall, that's true.
And now they take anybody regardless of
yeah,
their height or anything.
Sure, Patsy Miller was in. Remember Patsy?
Yeah. Sure, he went to the Navy, he went to the Army, he went
And how many kids did you have? Let me see, if you got married in 1931, you must have had most of your, sure, you had all your children by then.
Yeah.
He couldn't go in the Army, he had 6 children.
No, before.
When? 1940?
Before we were married.
Oh, in 1930, before you were married, he wanted to go into service.
He wanted to go to service.
Before there was no war then.
No,
but he wanted to go in service anyway.
Yeah.
I see, and they wouldn't take him.
They wouldn't take him.
Okay, but during the war, 1940s, you must have had most of your kids by then.
I had 5 by the time I was 25.
Sure. So he couldn't get into service then. He had all these dependents.
No, not very late.
Okay, well now let's see. Okay. Was there such a thing as company housing? Actually, you don't think there was. No.
You found your own housing.
Found your own.
Although a lot of the people had men boarding with them. You know, if they're working in Anaconda or any place else, if you had a room, you would rent a room.
Make some money by renting it, yeah. I wonder if the company said, oh, I think Ushers have a, not Ushers, but I think the Ritzes have a room. Go up and ask at the Ritzes. You think the company office would know that and would say?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they soon find out, because if you lived next door, you would know, or you know what I mean. Everything was by mouth, because there was you wouldn't think of having a phone. Nobody had phones or anything at that time.
Now they say to me also, talking about this discrimination and so forth, they say, when you got married, now you were Czechoslovakian, and you married another Czechoslovakian. Now, was that a problem? I mean, would it have been a problem if you decided to marry somebody who was Polish? Would your parents have felt that way?
No, my husband was English.
Oh, Ed was English. Oh, I see. So there was no problem. I mean,
the only problem was
there was sort of a class problem, but there was no ethnic problem.
No. They resented the fact he wasn't Catholic, but he turned Catholic when we got married.
Oh, bless his heart. That's good.
And as years went on, they said he was the best one, because he was so good.
Sure.
When my father had to go to all these different doctors, he would take them, and
Yeah.
And they often said, how good he was,
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Well, I had a little of that too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they loved seeing me, but of course I wasn't Catholic, and they loved seeing me, but they thought, oh God, Catholic. Oh dear. Let's see now. What else did they say? Oh, I think do you remember, the whistle. What did the whistle mean to you? The whistle, the Anaconda whistle. Was that time
9 o'clock, time you went home.
Time you went home. All right. How about 4:30? Was that time to come in from playing? And
no, that didn't mean anything. It was just the time of when the 4:30 whistle blew, you knew you had to be home for supper or whatever at the time.
Yeah.
But at 9 o'clock.
But you did keep time by the whistle. I mean, it was important to your life. You think?
Well, the 9 o'clock whistle was great because we had great cops then too. If they saw you on the street, what are you doing here? Home.
Yeah.
You weren't allowed to roam around, which was good.
Yeah.
We didn't have problems like you do nowadays. With the kids.
And that lasted until were adults also supposed to be in their houses?
Oh, no.
No,
No,
but it was kids.
Kids.
All right, now kids, where do kids end and adults begin?
But I'm going to tell you something. I was, as I said, I was 16. And if I wasn't home at 9 o'clock,
Yeah.
the door was closed. My father would be behind the door, wondering what I'm going to do.
How are you going to get in?
So he just let us stay there for a little while.
Yeah.
And in that house there was 2 attic rooms, big rooms, finished, nice rooms. And we had, my sister and I, we had one of those upstairs. So you had to go up the stairs. So when he'd open up the door, I'd get in, and he'd have the cat o' nine tails. And I'd run up those stairs.
Oh, and he'd chase you with those cat o' nine tails.
We had, it was, just because you're 16 doesn't mean you didn't get the cat o' nine tails.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Oh, no. And we loved our parents. We didn't feel that they were abusing us or anything.
Yeah.
We did wrong. We
Yeah.
were told to be in it at a certain time.
Yeah,
You had to, you had to be in or you just got it.
yeah.
And we never thought anything of it.
And did he give you a really good whipping, or did he just chase you with it and spank
he'd swing
your
it,
legs,
and then
get
you'd
your
run
legs?
away from it and close
Yeah.
the door, and that would be it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I remember when we were under the bridge, and if we did anything, I remember how many times I had a needle on chopped wood, and that hurts your knee.
Oh, that's awful.
And
That's
then
terrible.
I'd sit on my, you get off the knees there,
Yeah.
and then up on your knees.
Yeah.
But as I said, we didn't think anything bad of them because
Yeah.
we did something we shouldn't have done,
Yeah.
and we were being punished. Nowadays, the kids take you to court. Well, it's true, isn't it?
Oh, dear, yes, that's true.
I think it's the way you were raised. We were raised to respect our elders. If you had to stay after school, you got punished when you got home because you had to do something wrong in order to stay after school.
Yeah, and the staying after school wasn't enough punishment. They said,
You got it home.
You got it
Yeah,
home, too,
yeah.
sure.
Because this is the way they taught us to respect our elders. You have to do what the elders,
Yeah.
tell us. Which wasn't bad.
No, of course not, of course not.
Nowadays, the kids talk back to their teachers and, defy them and everything, which isn't doing them any good, I don't think.
Yeah. Okay, now you went to Hastings School.
Mm-hmm.
Did you graduate?
No, I didn't. I went up as far as the 11th grade.
11th grade.
And I thought I was smart. I wanted to get a job. I went to business school then. And then
Oh, you did? You went to business school?
Butler's Business School in Yonkers. And I lived with the people I was babysitting for and going to business school.
And did you graduate from business school?
I got married before I was finished.
So, okay. Now, how about Ed? Did he go all the way through school?
He did.
He graduated from Hastings High School.
I think he did.
Yeah.
He's got all sorts of diplomas for, not missing school and...
Oh, he had perfect attendance and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now, when you went to school, now let's see, how many, what did we have there? We had the first building, we had the second, you didn't have the middle building.
No, I don't think so. No, because I was in the first building.
In the old building, right.
The old auditorium. But I do remember getting my mother and father coming up, and of course, they couldn't read or write English or anything, but being that I was picked to go up, they came up, and they were proud of me.
Yes.
Each class was picked out one of the best readers, and I was picked up. And we'd get up on the stage, and we would read, and then Mr. Murphy was our superintendent at that time, and then he would question us with what we read. Because my father thought, oh, gee, Margaret, it's great, a little thing like that. But these little things stand out.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, well, now, were they disappointed when you didn't graduate?
Oh, they didn't want me to,
They wanted you to continue.
Yeah, because my mother always said she wanted things better for me than what she had.
Now, how about Mary? Did she go through and graduate?
No,
Mary didn't either.
No.
And how about Julie?
Julia did.
Julia did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But you know, you think you're smart. I had nobody, as I said, we had nobody to talk to us about anything because my mother and father didn't understand too much about anything, you know. And so we did pretty well. We thought, oh, we get a job, we make money, this is it, you know.
Yeah.
That's the way it turned out.
You didn't have anybody at the school that said, now, come on, Margaret, you've only got one more year. No guidance, no Miss Smith, Miss Davy.
Well, you know, right up until even when my kids went to school with Kenny, they didn't care, the teachers, whether you could do the work or not. Now, Kenny can't read, and he'll tell you he can't read. Mm-hmm. Yet he was pushed.
Right straight through. Yeah.
And they said, well, listen, they're doing that now, too.
Yeah, my Billy doesn't read real well.
No.
He's very, very slow. He's very, very bright.
They concentrate on the kids that are smart and can go along, you know, so they just push along. Yeah. Kenny himself will talk about that, you know.
Yeah.
He said he didn't worry about it, the teacher didn't care.
Yeah. Now, your parents read and wrote Czechoslovakian, did they?
Actually, none of them wrote. I went to, well, my sister did too, but anyway, she didn't take to it. But I used to write my mother's letters and read my mother's letters from Czechoslovakia.
She couldn't read them?
No.
So she did not read and write?
No.
See, that was my mother-in-law's great thing, was that she could read and write only Italian. She couldn't read and write English.
My mother
but
would
she
try,
was a big number
I mean?
Because she could read and write Italian.
She would try, but I could do better. But
Yeah.
when I could read those letters, I could read them, but I didn't know what they meant, certain words. And then she would tell me, she knew right away.
Oh, I see.
When I read them,
Yeah.
what it was.
What they were trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't too good on the translation.
Well, no, because I never heard these words
Yeah.
or anything, you know,
Yeah.
that were from Europe and that.
Yeah.
You know. And, but as I said, all I had to do was keep reading, and she would know just what they were writing, you know, as long as I kept, reading. And then I would write, have to write and to say what my mother wanted.
Now, did you have any? Well, yes, you did. You had other relatives in addition to your family. Now, your mother didn't have a sister or brother here, did she?
And she had a brother in Connecticut.
She did. Who came over the same time she came over?
No, he came later.
Was that why you went to Connecticut? Is because he heard of some job there
Probably,
or something? Yeah. And your father, now, did he have other relatives?
My father had 3 brothers here in Hastings.
Here in Hastings?
They all lived here in Hastings.
Well, why aren't there a whole bunch of ushers that I don't even know about? I mean, the only ushers I know are you.
Yeah, but they were all from the Ritz family.
But your father's name was
Ritz. My father's name was Ritz.
Oh, how stupid I am. Of course. Oh, so that's where we get Miss Ritz, who was the
She was my
teacher.
Uncle John's
She
wife.
was, of course. Oh, how dumb I am. Yes, of course, I see.
And then she had how many kids? There was 5 girls and 3 boys.
So, yes. Oh, I see.
Remember Johnny was the lawyer, the one-armed lawyer?
Yes, I do remember. Yes. Oh, so they're all the Ritz people. Oh, of course. Oh, I see. Okay. So you had quite a number of cousins and aunts and uncles and stuff, they're all here in town, that you could run